The banging on my bedroom door started at exactly 4:17 a.m. I know because I looked at the clock on my nightstand, the red numbers glowing in the darkness of my room, the small guest room I'd been forced to move into in my own house. Mom, get up. It was my son Kenneth, and he was pounding on the door like the house was on fire. I sat up, heart racing, thinking something was wrong. An emergency, the baby, something terrible. I opened the door in my nightgown, my reading glasses askew, my heart pounding. Kenneth? What's wrong? Is Ashley okay? Is it the baby? Ashley needs her coffee, he said flatly, like this explained everything. Like this justified waking up a 69-year-old woman before dawn. I stared at him. What? Her coffee. She needs it a specific way and she's not feeling well this morning. You need to make it for her, and set the table for breakfast. I looked past him down the hallway, toward what used to be my master bedroom, the room where I'd slept for 39 years, the room I'd shared with my late husband Harold, the room where Kenneth had forced me to move out of 3 months ago because Ashley wanted better light for her morning routine. Kenneth, it's 4 in the morning. I know what time it is. Ashley wakes up early because of the pregnancy. She needs her coffee at exactly 6 a.m., which means you need to start preparing it now because it has to be made fresh and it takes time to get the temperature exactly right. Make your own coffee. His face hardened. This is your job now, Mom. My job? Yes, your job. You live here rent-free. I own this house, Kenneth. The words came out sharp, hard, final. Because I needed to remind myself of the fundamental truth that he seemed to have forgotten. This was my house. The house I bought in 1985 with my late husband, the house we'd paid off in 15 years, every single mortgage payment made on time. The house where I'd raised Kenneth, where I'd nursed Harold through his final illness, where I'd built a life. Kenneth's expression shifted to something ugly. Something entitled, well, Ashley and I are letting you stay here. The least you can do is help out. We're providing for you, giving you a place to live, including you in our family. Making coffee and setting a table isn't too much to ask. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Providing for me, in my own house? Mom, don't make this difficult. Ashley is pregnant. She's carrying your grandchild. She can't be stressed. The doctor said stress is bad for the baby. So when she needs something, we make sure she gets it. That's what family does. Now please just make the coffee and set the table. She likes it set a specific way. I stood there in my nightgown in the doorway of the guest room, the room I'd been relegated to like hired help, and I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become this person? This entitled, demanding man who thought waking up his elderly mother at 4 a.m. to make his wife's coffee was reasonable. I wanted to say no, wanted to tell him to get out, wanted to remind him that I'd spent 40 years working as a nurse, then a nurse practitioner, that I'd raised him alone after his father died, that I'd given him everything. But he'd already turned and was walking back to the master bedroom, my bedroom. Coffee by 6 a.m. Mom. Don't forget, oat milk, not regular milk. 2 pumps of vanilla syrup. Exactly 65 degrees, not hotter. And a sprinkle of cinnamon on top. Ashley's very particular. The door closed behind him. I stood there in the darkness of the hallway in my own house, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Not just anger, clarity. This had to end. But before I tell you how I ended it, how I set that alarm for 3 a.m. and prepared a surprise in their morning coffee, they'd never forget, you need to understand how we got here, how a woman who'd spent 69 years building a life, building security, building boundaries, ended up being treated like a servant in her own home by her own son. You need to understand who I am. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. My name is Beatrice Louise Morrison, and I was born in 1955 in rural South Carolina, the youngest of 6 children born to tobacco farmers who worked land they didn't own. We were poor in the way that leaves marks on your soul. We lived in a 3-room house with a tin roof that leaked when it rained. We wore clothes until they had more patches than original fabric. We ate what we could grow, and some seasons we didn't eat much. But my parents, Samuel and Josephine Robinson, taught me something that poverty couldn't take away, the value of education, hard work, and self-respect. My father used to say, Beatrice, you listening, the only thing in this world that can't be taken from you is what you know. They can take your money, your house, your land, but they can't take what's in your head. You get your education, you get your knowledge, and you make sure nobody ever makes you feel small. My mother would add, while we washed dishes or hung laundry. And baby, you remember how people treat you tells you who they are, not who you are. Someone treats you bad, that's their character showing, not yours. Don't you ever accept disrespect just because someone says you should. I carried those lessons with me when I left South Carolina at 18 with $200 I'd saved from cleaning houses and an acceptance letter to a nursing program in Durham, North Carolina. I worked my way through nursing school, overnight shifts at a diner, weekend shifts cleaning offices, any job I could find that worked around my classes. I graduated in 1976 with my RN, top of my class, ready to change the world. The world wasn't quite ready for a young black woman who thought she deserved respect in a profession that was still predominantly white. But I was persistent. Stubborn. Some people said, I prefer determined. I got hired at Duke Hospital, started in the ER, worked every holiday, every overnight shift, every position nobody else wanted. I learned, I watched, I took every continuing education class they offered. Within 10 years, I'd gone back to school and gotten my nurse practitioner certification. Within 15, I was running a community health clinic, providing care to people who looked like me, who came from where I came from, who needed someone who understood. I met Harold Morrison in 1978. He was a postal worker, steady job, steady man, steady heart. We got married in my parents' church in South Carolina. Me in a dress my mother sewed, him in a suit he'd saved 6 months to buy. We moved into a small apartment in Durham and started saving. Every paycheck we put money aside, every raise, every bonus, every extra shift. It all went into our savings account for one purpose: to buy a house. In 1985 we found it. A beautiful 4-bedroom craftsman-style house in a historic black neighborhood. The house needed work. The porch was sagging, the roof needed replacing. The kitchen was from 1952, but it had good bones and it was ours. We paid $68,000 for it. Put down $15,000 we'd saved over 7 years. Took out a 30-year mortgage for the rest. We paid that mortgage off in 15 years. Every single month on time, we paid extra whenever we could. We fixed up the house ourselves. Harold rebuilt the porch, I refinished the hardwood floors. We renovated the kitchen together over one summer, working every weekend. We had one child, Kenneth, born in 1986. We raised him in that house, taught him to ride a bike in that driveway, watched him play in that backyard, sent him to good schools, made sure he had everything we didn't have growing up. Maybe that was our mistake. Maybe we gave him too much, made things too easy, didn't make him work for anything the way we'd had to work for everything. Harold died in 2012. Heart attack, sudden and devastating. One morning he was drinking coffee in our kitchen, complaining about the Tar Heels basketball season. 6 hours later he was gone. He left me $200,000 in life insurance from the Postal Service and his pension. He left me a house that was paid off and worth by then about $380,000. He left me alone but financially secure. I was 57 years old. I took a year to grieve, then I went back to work at the clinic. I worked another 5 years before I retired in 2017 at 62, with my pension, my savings and my Social Security. I invested Harold's life insurance carefully, hired a financial advisor, put it in a diversified portfolio. By 2024, between my investments, my savings, my pension and Social Security, I had approximately $340,000 in liquid assets, plus the house now worth $85,000 in a gentrified neighborhood that had changed completely since we'd bought in 1985. Total net worth, approximately $25,000. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable, secure, independent. I didn't need anyone's help, didn't need anyone's charity, didn't need anyone to let me stay anywhere. This was my house, my security, my reward for 40 years of hard work. And 6 months ago my son moved in and started treating me like the help. Kenneth had always been soft. That's the kindest way to put it. Harold and I had different philosophies about raising him. Harold wanted to make him work for things, teach him discipline and responsibility. I wanted to give him everything we didn't have, protect him from the hardships we'd faced. Looking back, I can see I overcompensated. After Harold died, it got worse. Kenneth was 26, just starting his career, and I wanted to help him, paid off his student loans, $35,000, co-signed on his first car, Gave him money for furniture when he got his first apartment. He never really learned to struggle. Never really learned the value of working for something. He met Ashley 5 years ago at a networking event. She was 23, he was 33. She was white, blonde, pretty in an Instagram sort of way. She came from money. Her father had owned a chain of furniture stores across North Carolina before bad investments and worse decisions bankrupted the family. Ashley had grown up wealthy but was now broke. But she still carried herself like money was her birthright. Still expected the lifestyle she'd grown up with, even though she couldn't afford it. Kenneth fell hard. Proposed after 8 months. They had a wedding that cost $32,000. I paid for half of it because Kenneth's credit was already maxed out from trying to keep Ashley in the lifestyle she expected. They lived in a decent 2-bedroom apartment in Durham. Kenneth worked in medical device sales, made about $73,000 a year. Should have been enough for a young couple to live comfortably. But Ashley didn't want comfortable. Ashley wanted luxury. I watched from a distance as Kenneth's credit card debt climbed. Watched as he took on a second job doing Uber on weekends. Watched as he got thinner, more stressed, more exhausted trying to fund a lifestyle they couldn't afford. I bit my tongue. He was an adult. He'd made his choice. Then, 6 months ago, they got evicted from their apartment. Kenneth called me frantic. Mom, we need help. We got evicted. We have nowhere to go. Evicted? Why? What happened? The landlord is crazy. He just decided he didn't want us there anymore. I found out later this was a lie. They'd stopped paying rent 3 months earlier, spent the rent money on Ashley's lifestyle expenses, her hair extensions, her nails, her designer knockoff purses from TJ Maxx that she posted on Instagram like they were the real thing. And Ashley's pregnant, Kenneth added. We need stability. We need family. Can we stay with you, just temporarily, just until we get back on our feet? Ashley's pregnant. Those magic words. The grandchild card. The one thing guaranteed to open my door and my heart. Of course you can stay here, as long as you need. They moved in the next week with all their belongings. More stuff than 2 people should own. Boxes and boxes of Ashley's clothes, her shoes, her decorations, her whole life. It's just temporary, Kenneth promised. 3 months, tops. Just until I get caught up on my debt, and we can afford a new place. That was 6 months ago. They took over my house immediately. The first week Ashley walked through every room with her phone, taking pictures, posting on Instagram about staying at the family estate, while we look for our forever home. Family estate. My modest craftsman house was suddenly an estate. The second week, Ashley started rearranging. Beatrice, do you mind if we move some things around? I just want to make the space more functional. She'd started calling me Beatrice instead of Mom. That should have been my first warning sign. She moved furniture without asking. Threw away my decorations, things Harold and I had collected over 40 years, claiming they were dated and cluttering the space. I came home from church one Sunday to find my living room completely rearranged. My mother's china cabinet, a family heirloom, had been moved to the basement to make room for Ashley's modern bookshelf that held no books, just decorative objects and framed photos of her and Kenneth. Ashley, you can't just throw away my things. I didn't throw them away. I stored them. And honestly, Beatrice, this house needed updating. It looked like a museum. Now it looks like people actually live here. Kenneth said nothing. He'd stopped defending me weeks ago. The third week, they took over the master bedroom. My bedroom. The room I'd shared with Harold for 30 years. The room where I'd slept for 39 years total. Beatrice? We need to talk, Ashley said, standing in my bedroom doorway with Kenneth behind her, silent and useless. Kenneth and I need the master bedroom. I'm pregnant and I need the space. The master has the better bathroom, better closet space and better light for my morning routine. You can take the guest room. It's smaller but it's perfect for one person. This is my bedroom. I know it has sentimental value, but we're trying to start a family. We need the space. And really, how much space does one person need? The guest room is cozy. Cozy. She called the smallest bedroom in the house cozy. Kenneth, I looked at my son, waiting for him to tell his wife that this was my house, my bedroom, my space. Mom, Ashley's pregnant. She needs to be comfortable, and you are just one person. It makes sense for us to have the bigger room, just for now, until we move out. Just for now. I moved my things to the guest room. Packed up 40 years of my life into the smallest bedroom in my own house. Slept that night in a room that used to be storage, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd allowed this to happen. But it got worse. So much worse. By month 2, Ashley had established a routine that involved me serving her. She left lists on the kitchen counter, actual written lists. Beatrice, please vacuum the upstairs bedrooms. Clean the master bathroom, use the lavender cleaner, not the blue one. Wash the sheets, cold water only. Hang dry, don't put them in the dryer. Pick up my prescription at CVS. Make dinner by 6 p.m. I'm craving pasta. Something light, not heavy. Thank you. Thank you. Like that made it better. Like adding thank you to a list of chores transformed her from an entitled house guest into a polite family member. I was 69 years old. I'd worked 40 years as a nurse and nurse practitioner. I'd built a career, raised a son, survived widowhood, managed my own finances and property. And I was being given chore lists by a 28-year-old woman living in my house. When I pushed back, Ashley, I'm not your maid, I have my own things to do. She'd tear up. I'm sorry. The pregnancy is so hard. I'm exhausted all the time. I can't do physical labor. The doctor said I have to be careful, and Kenneth works all day. I just thought, we're family. I thought family helps each other. And Kenneth would add, Mom, she's carrying your grandchild. Your first grandchild. Can't you just help out a little? Is it really that hard to vacuum? By month 3 I was cooking, cleaning, doing their laundry, running their errands, all while they treated me like staff. Ashley stopped saying please and thank you. Started leaving the lists without any pleasantries. Started texting me orders while I was out. Can you pick up my dry cleaning? Thanks. Not a question, a command. Kenneth stopped acknowledging it entirely. He'd come home from work, eat the dinner I'd made, watch TV in the living room, go to bed, never offered to help. Never asked how I was doing. Never seemed to notice that his mother had become his wife's servant. The pregnancy became Ashley's weapon. Anytime I objected to anything, anytime I set a boundary, anytime I said no, I'm pregnant. I can't be stressed. My doctor said stress is dangerous for the baby. Do you want me to lose this baby? Do you want something to happen to your grandchild? She'd cry. Kenneth would comfort her. And I'd be left feeling like a monster for not wanting to scrub toilets and make midnight grocery runs for ice cream. The financial abuse started in month 4. I noticed charges on my credit card statement I didn't recognize. $3,200 at a furniture store. $1,800 at a baby boutique. $1,890 at a spa. I'd added Kenneth as an authorized user on my credit card years ago for emergencies, for when he was in college and needed gas money or textbooks. I'd forgotten to remove him. He'd given Ashley access to my credit card. They'd been using it for months without telling me. I confronted Kenneth with the statements. You've been using my credit card, $18,000 in 4 months. Without asking me. It's not using, it's borrowing. I was going to pay you back. When you're already drowning in debt. When I get my next commission check, or tax refund, or something. Look, Mom, we needed that stuff. The baby needs furniture. Ashley needs maternity clothes. These are necessities. A $3,020 dresser is not a necessity. A $80-90 spa day is not a necessity. Ashley walked into the kitchen at that moment, hand on her belly, face arranged into an expression of wounded innocence. Are you seriously mad about me taking care of myself? I'm growing a human being, Beatrice. I need self-care. I need to reduce my stress. The spa isn't a luxury, it's medical care. Medical care? Yes. Prenatal massage, it's doctor recommended. I looked at my son, my only child. The boy I'd raised, the man I'd sacrificed for, standing there letting his wife lie to my face and steal from me. Get out of my house, I said quietly. Kenneth's face changed, hardened. You can't kick us out. This is my house. I can absolutely kick you out. Actually, you can't. He pulled out his phone, showed me a website he'd bookmarked. I looked it up. In North Carolina, we've been living here for more than 30 days. That establishes tenancy. You can't just kick us out. You have to formally evict us through the courts. That takes 30 to 60 days minimum. And we have a pregnant woman living here, which makes it even harder for you to evict us. Judges don't like evicting pregnant women. He'd researched this. He'd planned for this moment. He knew I'd eventually push back, and he'd prepared a legal defense. So here's how this is going to work, Kenneth continued, and I barely recognized him. This wasn't my son. This was a stranger. We're going to keep living here. You're going to keep helping out like family should. And when the baby comes, we'll reassess. Maybe we'll move out. Maybe we won't. But you're not kicking us out. And if you try, I'll make sure you never see your grandchild. Ashley's already abominant all the times you've been hostile toward her. All the times you've refused to help a pregnant woman. We'll get a restraining order if we have to. You'll never meet your grandchild. I stood there in my kitchen, the kitchen Harold and I had renovated in 1998, where I'd cooked thousands of meals, where I'd raised my son, and I realized I'd lost control of my own home. But I wasn't defeated. Not yet. Because Kenneth had forgotten something important about me. I'd spent 40 years in healthcare. I'd dealt with manipulative patients, abusive family members, insurance fraud, workplace politics, legal issues, ethical dilemmas. I'd learned to document everything, to build cases, to protect myself. And I was about to use every skill I'd learned to take back my house and my life. But first, there was the matter of the 4 a.m. coffee incident. The morning Kenneth banged on my door at 4:17 a.m. demanding I make Ashley's elaborate coffee. I complied. I got up. I went downstairs. I made the coffee exactly how Ashley wanted it. Oat milk, not dairy. 2 pumps of vanilla syrup. Heated to exactly 1655 degrees. I used a thermometer poured into her specific mug, the one that said, Mama Bear. Sprinkled with cinnamon. I set the table the way she liked it. Placemats at precise angles. Napkins folded in triangles. Her prenatal vitamins in a small dish. A glass of water with exactly 3 ice cubes. Fresh flowers in a vase from my garden that I tended, that they never helped with. Ashley came downstairs at 6 a.m., looked at the table, picked up her coffee, took a sip. Made a face. This tastes off. Can you remake it? I stood there after waking up at 4 a.m., after spending an hour preparing everything exactly how she wanted it, and I watched her dump my work down the sink. The milk tastes weird. Is it expired? Did you check the date? God, Beatrice, you can't just use old milk. I'm pregnant. I can't get food poisoning. The milk wasn't old. It was brand new. I'd bought it 2 days ago. She just wanted to assert power, wanted to make me do it again, wanted to remind me of my place in the hierarchy she'd established in my own home. Of course, I said, smiling. Let me make you a fresh one. I remade the coffee exactly the same way. She took a sip. Better. Thank you. She didn't look at me when she said it. She was already on her phone scrolling through Instagram, posting a photo of her perfect morning coffee with hashtags about gratitude and blessings and pregnancy glow. Kenneth came down, kissed her on the head, grabbed toast from the table I'd set. Thanks, Mom, he said absently, like I was a piece of furniture. They sat at the table eating the breakfast I'd made in the house I owned, and they didn't see me. I was invisible. I was help. I went upstairs to my tiny guest room, closed the door, and I made a decision. This ends tonight. I knew Kenneth's phone passcode. He'd made me set up all his apps when they moved in, link his accounts, organize his digital life because he was too busy. He'd never changed the code. 1986, his birth year. That night, after they'd gone to bed at 10 p.m., Ashley needed at least 10 hours of sleep, she claimed, for the baby. I waited until midnight, then I crept out of my room, found Kenneth's phone charging in the kitchen, and I set his alarm for 3 a.m. Then I went downstairs to the kitchen and I prepared a pot of coffee, special coffee. I used their expensive oat milk, their fancy vanilla syrup. I heated it to exactly 65 degrees. I poured it into 2 travel mugs, one for Kenneth, one for Ashley. And into each cup I added a generous dose of milk of magnesia. Milk of magnesia is a laxative. It's not dangerous, it won't poison you or hurt you. It's literally sold over the counter at every drugstore in America. Doctors recommend it for constipation. But if you drink a large dose, especially on an empty stomach, especially if you're not expecting it, you're going to have a very, very unpleasant morning. I put the coffee mugs in the refrigerator, cleaned up any evidence, and went to bed. At 3 a.m., Kenneth's alarm went off. I heard him stumbling around, cursing, confused. Heard him come downstairs. I put on my robe and went down to the kitchen, flipping on lights, acting surprised. Kenneth, what are you doing up? My alarm went off. I didn't set it for 3 a.m. I don't know what happened. Oh no, that's so strange. Must be a glitch. Well, since you're up, I made coffee. I was up early myself. Couldn't sleep. You know how it is at my age, so I made a pot. Here, Have some. I handed him one of the travel mugs. He took it gratefully, still half asleep, took a long drink. Thanks, Mom. I'm gonna go back to bed. Take one for Ashley too. You know how she likes her coffee ready when she wakes up. He grabbed the second mug and went upstairs. I cleaned up the kitchen, went back to my room, and I waited. At 5:47 a.m. I heard the first sounds of distress, running footsteps, a bathroom door slamming, then another bathroom door. Then the groaning started. By 6:15 a.m., both bathrooms upstairs were occupied, Kenneth in one, Ashley in the other, both experiencing severe gastrointestinal distress. I knocked on Kenneth's bathroom door. Honey? Are you okay? What's wrong? I don't know, he moaned from inside. Something's wrong. My stomach. Oh God. Ashley was crying in the other bathroom. Kenneth, something's wrong. The baby. What if something's wrong with the baby? Should I call 911? I asked, all concern. No, Kenneth yelled. Just give us a minute. They spent the next 3 hours running between the bathrooms, pale and sweating and miserable. I made them toast, brought them Gatorade, suggested maybe the milk had been bad after all. Oh no, that milk I used for the coffee yesterday. Ashley said it tasted off. Remember, it must have been spoiled. Oh, I feel terrible. You both must have gotten food poisoning from the bad milk. I should have thrown it out when Ashley mentioned it. Kenneth was too sick to respond. Ashley was too sick to be suspicious. By noon they were both exhausted and weak, but recovering. The milk of magnesia had worked its way through their systems. They'd be fine by evening. Uncomfortable but fine. I drove to the grocery store, made a show of buying all new milk, all new groceries, throwing away anything that might have been contaminated. I'm so sorry, I kept saying. I should have been more careful. With Ashley being pregnant and all, this is my fault. And they believed me, because why wouldn't they? Sweet old Beatrice, who woke up at 4 a.m. to make coffee, who did all the cooking and cleaning, who served them faithfully. She'd made an honest mistake with expired milk. They didn't suspect revenge. They didn't consider that I might fight back. That was their mistake. But the milk of magnesia incident was just the beginning. Just a small, petty act of retaliation that made me feel better but didn't solve the actual problem. The actual problem was that I had unwanted tenants in my house who were stealing from me, exploiting me, and legally protected from eviction because my idiot son had researched squatters' rights. I needed a real solution, a permanent solution, and I knew exactly how to get it. The day after the bad milk incident, while Kenneth and Ashley were recovering and weak, I made some phone calls. First call to my bank. I need to report unauthorized use of my credit card by an authorized user. The fraud department was very interested in $18,000 in charges made by my son without my knowledge or permission. Mom, did you give him permission to use the card? He's an authorized user for emergencies. Using it to buy furniture and spa days is not an emergency. That's fraud. We'll open an investigation. Second call to a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Claudia Reeves, a black woman in her 50s who specialized in elder law, property disputes and elder abuse. I'd met Claudia years ago at a community health event. We'd stayed in touch. She was smart, ruthless, and didn't tolerate people exploiting the elderly. Claudia, I need help. My son and his wife have taken over my house and I can't get them out. Tell me everything. I did. The eviction that brought them to my door, the way they'd taken over my space, my bedroom, my life. The chore lists, the financial abuse, the credit card fraud, the threats to keep me from my grandchild, the legal research Kenneth had done about tenant rights. Claudia was quiet for a long moment. Then, Beatrice, they've committed multiple crimes in your home: credit card fraud, financial exploitation of an elderly person, theft, and they've done it while establishing tenancy, which gives us leverage. How? North Carolina law allows for immediate eviction if the tenant has committed crimes on the property. We don't have to wait 60 days. We get an emergency order from a judge, and they're out in 72 hours. They'll fight it. Let them try. With the documentation you have, credit card statements, text messages, those core lists, we can prove financial exploitation, elder abuse and fraud. No judge is going to side with them. Kenneth threatened to keep my grandchild from me. That's coercive control of an elderly person. Also illegal under North Carolina elder abuse statutes. We can get a restraining order that prevents him from using the grandchild as a weapon. And honestly, Beatrice, Once we're done, he's going to be facing criminal charges. He won't be in a position to keep anything from anyone. Criminal charges? Credit card fraud over $10,000 is a felony. He's looking at prison time if convicted. Especially with the elder abuse enhancement. You're his mother, you're 69 years old. That makes it worse. I took a breath. Do it. All of it. You're sure? This is your son? I'm sure, because right now he's not acting like my son. He's acting like a criminal who happens to share my DNA, and I'm not protecting criminals anymore. Claudia got to work immediately. She filed an emergency petition for eviction based on criminal activity on the property. Attached all my documentation, credit card statements showing $18,000 in unauthorized charges. Screenshots of Ashley's text messages ordering me around like staff. Photos of the unauthorized renovations they'd done to my house without permission, property damage. Recordings I'd made of Kenneth threatening to keep the grandchild from me. She also filed a police report on my behalf for credit card fraud and financial exploitation of an elderly person. And she filed for a restraining order preventing Kenneth and Ashley from using the pregnancy or future child as leverage against me. The hearing was scheduled for 5 days later. During those 5 days, Kenneth and Ashley had no idea what was coming. They continued treating me like help, continued leaving chore lists, continued using my credit card. I didn't cancel it yet because Claudia wanted more evidence, wanted to see just how brazen they'd get. They got very brazen. Ashley bought $2,400 worth of furniture for the nursery, posted it all on Instagram, creating the perfect space for our little one, Thadaradine Anarsati. Nursery goals, baby on the way. Kenneth bought himself a new laptop, $1,800. I need it for work, Mom. Stop making everything a big deal. They were digging their own grave, and they had no idea. The day before the hearing, I packed a bag, important documents, some clothes, my medications. I went to stay with my friend Margaret, who lived 2 streets over. You're sure about this? Margaret asked. I've never been more sure about anything. The morning of the hearing, Claudia picked me up at 8 a.m. We went to the courthouse, waited for our case to be called. Kenneth and Ashley weren't there. They hadn't been served yet. That would happen after the hearing, if the judge granted our emergency order. The judge was a black man in his 60s. Judge Harold Thompson. He'd seen everything in his 25 years on the bench. Claudia presented our case. The credit card fraud, the financial exploitation, the documented abuse, the unauthorized modifications to my property, the threats regarding the grandchild. She submitted all the evidence, every statement, every text, every photo, every recording. Judge Thompson reviewed everything in silence. Then he looked at me. Mrs. Morrison, this is your son we're talking about. Yes, Your Honor. And you want him criminally charged? I want him to face the consequences of his actions. If that means criminal charges, then yes. That's a hard thing, turning in your own child. Your Honor, with respect, raising a child means teaching them right from wrong. I taught him. He chose wrong. Now he needs to learn that actions have consequences. If I don't teach him that lesson now, he'll never learn it, and that baby he's bringing into the world deserves a father who knows the difference between family and exploitation. Judge Thompson nodded slowly. Emergency eviction granted. They have 72 hours to vacate your property or be removed by sheriff's deputies. I'm also granting the restraining order. They cannot use the child as leverage or threaten to withhold contact as retaliation, and I'm referring this case to the DA's office for criminal prosecution. Thank you, Your Honor. We left the courthouse. Claudia drove me back to Margaret's house. The sheriff will serve them this afternoon, she said. You should stay away from the house until they're gone. Let the law handle it. What happens next? They have 72 hours to get out. Anything they leave behind becomes your property, and the DA will decide whether to prosecute the credit card fraud. With this amount of money and the elder abuse component, I'd say he's looking at 18 months to 3 years if convicted. And the baby? That's harder. Ashley can try to keep the child from you out of spite, but she can't use it as legal leverage anymore. The restraining order prevents that. And honestly, once Kenneth has a criminal record, once he's seen for what he is, she might not want him around either. These kinds of women leave when the money runs out. I went back to Margaret's house, waited. At 4:37 p.m. my phone rang. Kenneth. Mom, what did you do? The sheriff just showed up with an eviction notice. He says we have 72 hours to get out or we'll be forcibly removed. What the hell did you do? I took back my house. You can't do this. Ashley's pregnant. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem, Kenneth. You should have thought about that before you stole $18,000 from me, treated me like a servant in my own home, and threatened to keep my grandchild from me. We didn't steal. Yes, you did, and the police agree with me. The DA is reviewing your case for criminal prosecution. You might want to get a lawyer. A lawyer? Mom, please, you can't do this to me. I'm your son. And I'm your mother, the mother you disrespected, exploited, and abused for 6 months. The mother you woke up at 4 a.m. to make your wife's coffee. The mother you moved into the smallest room of her own house so your wife could have better light. I gave you life, Kenneth. I raised you. I loved you, and you treated me like hired help, and stole from me. So yes, I can do this. I am doing this. You have 72 hours. I hung up. He called back 17 times. I didn't answer. Ashley left voicemails. Crying, begging, saying they had nowhere to go, saying the stress was bad for the baby, saying I was a terrible person, saying she'd never let me see the grandchild. I didn't call back. 72 hours later, the sheriff's deputies went to my house. Kenneth and Ashley had packed most of their things, filled a U-Haul, taken what they could. They left behind damage, holes in the walls where they'd hung things without permission, scratches on my hardwood floors from moving furniture. The master bathroom had a broken tile where Ashley had dropped something, but they were gone. Out of my house, out of my life. I came home that evening with Claudia, walked through my house room by room. So much damage, so much that would need to be fixed. But it was mine again. Mine. I slept in my own bedroom that night for the first time in 4 months. In the bed I'd shared with Harold. In the room where I belonged. And I slept better than I had in half a year. The criminal case moved forward. The DA decided to prosecute. The evidence was too strong to ignore, and the elder abuse component made it politically advantageous. He was running for re-election, and tough on elder abuse was a good campaign angle. Kenneth was arrested 2 weeks after the eviction, charged with felony theft over $10,000, financial exploitation of an elderly person, and fraud. If convicted on all counts, he was looking at 18 months to 3 years in state prison. He hired a public defender, couldn't afford a private lawyer. His credit was destroyed. Ashley left him before the trial, moved back to Virginia where her parents lived. She was 7 months pregnant by then, showing miserable. She sent me one email. I hope you're happy. You destroyed your son's life, and you're going to miss your grandchild's entire life. You chose money over family. That makes you the monster, not us. I didn't respond. The trial was 4 months later. I testified for 3 hours, told the jury everything. The eviction, the takeover of my house, the servant treatment, the financial abuse, the threats. I brought my documentation, every credit card statement, every text message, every recorded conversation. Kenneth's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive old woman who was mad that her son had married someone I didn't like. The prosecutor destroyed that narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Morrison is a 69-year-old retired nurse practitioner who worked 40 years in healthcare. She owns her home outright, a home worth nearly $500,000. She has substantial savings and retirement accounts. She doesn't need her son's money. She doesn't need his help. She gave him shelter when he was evicted from his apartment. She welcomed him and his pregnant wife into her home. And how did he repay her kindness? By taking over her house, by moving her out of her own bedroom, by treating her like a servant, literally giving her chore lists and waking her at 4 a.m. to make his wife's coffee, by stealing $18,000 from her credit card, by threatening to keep her grandchild from her if she didn't comply with his demands. This isn't a family disagreement. This is elder abuse. This is financial exploitation. This is a son who saw his elderly mother as a resource to be used and discarded. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing was 3 weeks later. Kenneth's lawyer begged for leniency. Your Honor, my client is a first-time offender. He's about to become a father. He made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to be separated from his child. The judge, a different judge this time, a white woman in her 50s, looked at Kenneth with no sympathy. Mr. Morrison, you exploited your elderly mother for 6 months. You treated her like an employee in her own home. You stole nearly $20,000 from her. You damaged her property, and when she tried to set boundaries, you threatened her. You told her she'd never see her grandchild. If she didn't submit to your demands, that's not a mistake. That's a pattern of abuse. That's calculated cruelty against the woman who gave you life and raised you. The law takes financial exploitation of the elderly seriously because we as a society have a duty to protect our most vulnerable. You violated that duty in the worst way possible against your own mother. 18 months in state prison. Eligible for parole after 12 months with good behavior. Restitution of $18,347 to the victim. Upon release, you'll be on probation for 3 years. Kenneth broke down crying. Please, I can't miss my child's birth. Please, Your Honor. You should have thought of that before you stole from your mother. Bailiff. Remand the defendant. They took him away in handcuffs. I sat in the courtroom gallery, hands folded, face calm. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired, and sad, and relieved. My son was going to prison because of choices he made. Because of who he'd become, and while I'd done what was necessary to protect myself to reclaim my life, it still hurt. But some lessons have to be learned the hard way. Kenneth served 10 months before being released on good behavior. Ashley had the baby while he was in prison, a boy named Nathan. She didn't put Kenneth's name on the birth certificate. She never contacted me, never sent photos, never gave me the chance to meet my grandson. That hurt. Still hurts. I won't lie about that. But I also know that some prices are worth paying for peace. Kenneth got out of prison and called me. Mom, I'm sorry for everything. I was wrong. I was selfish. I let Ashley manipulate me and I manipulated you and I hurt you. I'm so sorry. I know you are, baby. Can we try again? Can I see you? Yes. But not in my house. Not yet. We meet in public. We take this slow. You earn back my trust through actions, not words. You prove to me that you've changed. And maybe eventually we can rebuild something. What about Nathan? Do you want to meet him? Does Ashley know you're asking me that? No. She doesn't want anything to do with you. She says you ruined her life. I didn't ruin her life, Kenneth. She and you ruined your own lives by stealing from me. But I'm not going to fight her for access to a child whose mother hates me. When Nathan is old enough to make his own choices, if he wants to know his grandmother, I'll be here. Until then, I'm not forcing anything. That's it? That's it? You made your choices. Now you live with them. Just like I'm living with mine. We've been rebuilding slowly. Very slowly. Kenneth and I meet for coffee once a month. We talk. Sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes it's easier. He's working again, a different sales job, lower pay, rebuilding his career after prison. He and Ashley are not together. She moved out of state with Nathan. Kenneth sees his son through video calls and occasional visits. He's different now, quieter, more humble. The prison time and the consequences changed him. Or maybe just revealed who he really was underneath the entitlement. I don't know if we'll ever be close again the way we were before. Maybe that relationship died when he woke me at 4 a.m. to make coffee. Maybe it died when he stole from me. Maybe it died when he chose his wife over basic human decency toward his mother. But we're trying. And that's something. As for me, I'm 71 now. I live in my house that I own, that no one else controls. I had it professionally cleaned after Kenneth and Ashley left. Repaired the damage, repainted, made it mine again. I changed all the locks, set up a security system, and I made a promise to myself. Never again. Never again would I let someone take advantage of my kindness. Never again would I let family obligation override my boundaries. Never again would I confuse love with enabling. I teach a class now at my church. Protecting yourself from family financial abuse. 20 to 30 elderly people come every month. I teach them about credit cards, about authorized users, about legal rights, about when family love becomes family exploitation. Last week someone asked me, "But Mrs. Morrison, how do you say no to family? How do you set boundaries when it's your own child asking for help?" I thought about that for a long moment. Then I said, "You remember that being family doesn't give anyone the right to abuse you. Being family means mutual respect, mutual care, mutual responsibility. When someone violates that, when they treat you like a resource instead of a person, they've broken the family bond, not you." My son woke me at 4 a.m. to make his wife's coffee and told me it was my job. That's not family. That's exploitation. And when you're being exploited, you have every right to protect yourself, even if the person exploiting you is your own child. People ask me if I regret sending my son to prison, and honestly, no. Because prison taught him a lesson I couldn't teach him. It taught him that actions have consequences, that you can't treat people, especially the people who love you, like they're less than human. He's a better man now than he was before. He had to lose everything. His freedom, his relationship, his access to his child, his relationship with me, to learn what really matters. That's a harsh lesson. But some lessons have to be harsh. The class was quiet. Then a woman in the back, Mrs. Patterson, 74 years old, whose daughter had been stealing from her for 2 years, raised her hand. "I'm going to file a police report tomorrow," she said. "Thank you for teaching me that I deserve better." I smiled. We all deserve better. We just have to believe it enough to fight for it. That's my legacy now. Not just the house I built with Harold. Not just the career I spent 40 years building. Not just the son I raised who went to prison. My legacy is teaching other elderly people, especially elderly Black women who've spent their whole lives being told to accept less, to forgive more, to put family first no matter what, that they deserve respect, that they deserve dignity, that they have the right to protect themselves, even from their own children, especially from their own children. Because family love should never come at the cost of your peace, your security, or your self-respect. And if someone tells you to get up at 4 a.m. to make their coffee because it's your job, you have every right to serve them something they'll never forget. Mine was milk of magnesia. Yours might be an eviction notice. Either way, the lesson is the same. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. Don't mistake age for helplessness. Don't mistake an elderly Black woman's grace for an inability to fight back. Because we've survived everything this world has thrown at us. We're not about to let our own children destroy what we've built. I'm 71 years old. I own my home outright. I have my savings, my security, my peace. And I have my boundaries. Kenneth learned that the hard way. Your family members can learn it too. All you have to do is believe you deserve better. Because you do. We all do.